reinstatement of the mask mandate may be delayed. And then also, as the council may have seen, Supervisor Catherine Barger, who represents the 5th district, has also spoken out publicly against a proposed universal masking requirement. So that's really the latest coming out of the county.
Got it. Thank you. Does someone on the council have a proposal in terms of what they'd like to see put in place, if anything? A motion, if you would.
I'm not sure exactly how we want to word this or go about this, but I think there's a couple things we got to look at. Number one has to do with, look, I know that it hasn't come down, but if anyone's been paying attention to the Board of Supervisors meeting today, you will see that Dr. Ferrer has doubled down on her feelings about this. So I have a feeling it has not, if it doesn't even go in this Friday, I think she's just holding out that card that's going to allow her to do it whenever she wants. So that's, I think, a bigger question overall about how to handle something like that. But I think as far as our city goes, I think we need to take a little bit more of a leadership role on this as far as looking out for our businesses, especially, and really the people that are working in these businesses. So if this goes down again and people are very much against it, we're taking, the chance of, number one, businesses really considerably going down and downhill fast. There's no more PPP money to come in there to help them with this anymore. Whatever happens right now is on their own dime. And we're also technically putting employees, some of them even our own kids, on the front lines of having to tell someone to put masks on when they don't want to. And then what happens then? So I don't think even as a city, we have the ability nor the desire to enforce the mandate. So the question comes down, I think I got to defer to Mr. Hensley on this, is how do we word this in this way, and to where we're not actively enforcing or wanting to enforce what this order is.
And before we hear from Mark, let's make sure we have consensus on this topic. Is there anyone that has a dissenting opinion from Councilmember Giroux?
No.
Doesn't look like it. Okay, Mr. Hensley.
Yeah, now to be clear, again, it's a contemplated order, so I don't have any specific language to review as far as what's being contemplated. If Dr. Ferrer and the county go back to where we were with masks, what that essentially means is that workplaces, retail outlets, restaurants, except when you're eating, event venues, unless again while you're eating, that people will be required to mask up. Those are, I don't know that covers every business, but that will generally be the requirement. Now the city of El Segundo has never taken a active enforcement role as far as against businesses in town of any kind. The only thing we did in the past was early on at the pandemic, did some handed out free masks and things like that. If the council wants to make it clear that your preference, now you can never tell the police department exactly what to do, but if you want to say that this is not a preference, you don't want to see city resources spent on enforcement of any mask order, assuming it's along the lines of what we're talking about. If there's something more drastic involving, we've been through a lot of different changes through the last 2.5 years as far as businesses and sports groups and different things operational. I don't understand this is going to go that deep, but this is just going to be, there's going to be a potential masking requirement. But if you want to direct the staff that, as far as third parties in the public, that that council's preference that no resources or time be spent on that's fine. Now, the employees at City Hall and people that come into City Hall will still be subject to that requirement, and there's nothing we can do about that as an employer. That's not, we don't have the enforcement authority over that. That's other third parties that enforce against us. Does that answer your question?
It does. I think though, Mark, one of the things actually, just so my colleagues here, I just think, I know in the past we just haven't enforced, but I just think at this point in time, with the way things are going, I think we need to make a public statement and make that we are in the process of being part of the solution, not part of the problem. I firmly believe that everyone has all of the pertinent information out there, from vaccines to boosters to masks to whatever you want. It's time to allow adults to make adult decisions and make your own choices. And that's how I feel about this. And I really believe that we should make a statement in that direction. I'm also hoping that whether it be the COG or anyone else, any other cities around, kind of like what Beverly Hills just did, to be able to join in against this, because we do need to move forward and learn how to live with this. And I think for a considerable amount of time, we have. And it's just, I think just time for us to actually do that and make a statement about it. And I'll stop now.
I think succinctly put, to be what you're saying is a motion to that the council is not interested in spending funds or staff time on enforcing the order, but recognizing that City Hall and public facilities will be subject to whatever rules come down.
So I have
Sure.
another, because for me, it's like two prongs. So there's that statement, but then I also think we should be sending a letter to the LA County Health Department saying that we disagree with, with them moving forward with this. So I think that it's a two-prong approach. So if we put out a statement, like a letter to the LA County Health Department saying that we disagree, that also is kind of the statement that we're saying out loud, but it's also kind of covers this a little bit. So I just want to, maybe it's a two-prong approach.
Okay. Right. So do you want to make a motion? Either one of you want to make a motion for either one of those ideas or both?
Yeah, I mean,
And
I would like to
we
make
can
a
have further discussion.
again, I haven't heard from anybody else, so
Well,
I'll
that's
make a
okay. You can
motion
make the
when we're ready.
motion and then, yeah, sorry, Lance, I keep cutting you off. Make the motion, then we'll get a second and then we can open up for further discussion. Okay.
Okay, that I would like to make a motion to, I guess the terminology would be to not actively enforce the mask mandate or potential mask mandate handed down by LA County in the city of El Segundo. With the knowledge that City Hall is, I don't know, Mark, what's the right way to word that?
Really, city facilities are subject
The
to
city
the order.
facilities are subject to different rules.
Thank you. Do we have a second on that?
I'll second that.
Great. Okay. Any further discussion on that motion? Doesn't look like it. Yeah, Councilman Nickel.
Councilman Nichol.
Yeah, I think whatever we do, I just want to make sure that I think this is one of those situations where we express our feelings to you, Daryl, and to you, Mark, right? And then you can wordsmith it as to, keep our hands out of the cookie jar. Don't get us sued. Don't get us what I really, in all of this, in this thought process was like, I do not want to give the fire department or the police department anything that they could throw back at us in the way, shape, or form, saying that like we told them not to enforce this, or we told them that they didn't have to wear masks, and then something bad happened to them. So I don't want that sort of thing to happen. I think our employees need to know that, whatever the laws are, the umbrella that we live underneath, that we have to abide by them as a city. That said, I believe what Lance is saying about, us learning how to live with this and, adults being adults and making their own decisions. I think you hit the nail on the head. It's spot on. And so that's all I really wanted to add to that, but we have a motion and a second. So.
Okay, we'll do a voice vote. Council, we have a motion and a second. Council member Nickel.
Aye.
Councilmember Perstug.
Aye.
Councilmember Giroux.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel.
Yes.
And Mayor Boyles is a yes. Sorry about the order there, but I was just looking up and down the screen. So that's 5-0, Madam Clerk, on that first one. So then, Councilman Perstug, you're suggesting something similar to what we did before. We wrote a letter to the board, or I can't remember if it was DPH with a copy of the board or vice versa, expressing our disagreement essentially with the decision that could be made regarding mask mandates, correct?
Correct. And I think, you could use some of the same wording, that we feel at this juncture, we need to allow people to adult themselves, adults to be adults. And, use the information that they have that the CDC provides to ensure their safety. So we can say, obviously, embrace, the information coming from the CDC, but also just, indicate that we are not happy with the decision, if there is a decision to move forward with mask mandating again.
Okay, I think we have the template. Mr. George, do you have that letter, or Mr. Hensley? Because we had a
I
really
don't.
comprehensive letter.
Yeah, but I think Barbara Ross can help us put our
Oh,
hands
yeah.
on that. We've sent a couple of letters over the past couple of years about this, not this, I don't know about this specific issue but with the same kind of issue, and directed to the Department of Public Health and the Board of Supervisors.
So I was going to ask, was the letter addressed to the Board of Supervisors?
Yeah, it was either to the DPH with a copy of the board, or vice versa.
Okay.
I don't remember which, but I know it was comprehensive and addressed much of Councilmember Perstuck's, if not all of her concerns.
Barbara is on if you would like her to.
Okay, yeah.
I do have a letter. I'll pull up the file and get it over to Daryl and Mark.
Yep, thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Deputy City Manager. Okay, so who would like to move approval? Councilmember Giroux.
Sorry, just one quick comment. Drew, I know you have a COG meeting on Thursday. Is that right? And I think this is on their docket. It's part of the agenda. Is there
Yeah,
a
it's the
possibility?
Go ahead,
Sorry,
Lance, sorry.
is there a possibility that the COG could vote a similar situation where all the cities kind of combine on it?
Yeah, I wouldn't count. I'd say we hope for that, but we do our thing independent, because I don't know where the COG's going to land on that. 16 different, you got LA City, LA County represented on there.
Yeah, I gotcha.
So I'm not sure where they're going to end up, but it is definitely added to the agenda. I confirm that. Council, or Chair Cruikshank added that.
Okay.
So that's going to be discussed Thursday night.
Thank you.
Yeah, by the way, if I'm the voting board member, given that we had a 5-0 vote to write that letter, I assume I have permission to vote in favor of a similar letter. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, good. All right, so who would like to move approval of Councilmember Perstuck's letter campaign to the board and Department of Public Health, Board of Supervisors, that is?
Do I just need to second that, or is that?
Oh, we need a
motion-
first, actually. She put forth the idea. We need someone to make a motion and a second.
Motion to approve.
Great,
I'll
Give a
second
second.
it. I'll
great.
second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, Councilmember Drew, aye or no?
Aye.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Nickel.
Aye.
Great. Councilmember Perstuck.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel.
Yes.
And Mayor Boyles is a yes as well, 5-0. Okay. Any further ideas or discussion on this topic?
The only thing I think is we need to make sure that we let the school district know what we're doing, so that they have a heads up. And they're not blindsided, because obviously, they follow under the county, but are held to a different criteria, because obviously they get their funding from the state. So, and that's a different board.
I'll make sure to reach out to Dr. Moore on that.
Okay.
To that end, Daryl, could you also through the COG, are you part of that COG city manager group yet?
Yes, yes,
Could you also let that group know where we stand on this,
will do.
please? More support we have before Thursday's board of directors meeting, the better. Yeah, Councilor Drew.
Sorry, just one thing I just want to make sure we clarify here is that we're not anti-mask here. We're not saying that. We are more of we're pro make your own choice, given the copious amounts of information that's been fed to us over the past several years. I think it's an important thing that I don't want it coming out that, the council is anti-mask. That's not what we're talking about here. We're saying that you should be allowed the choice. I don't mean to speak for everybody, but that's what I mean by this.
Yeah, I think everyone feels the same way, given how the vote discussion went. But thank you for pointing out. That's good. So let's see, there's one other thought about Oh, I actually was going to ask Tracy, I don't know if there are any public comments. No, we've already done it once, but in case there's someone that wanted to speak or in the chamber.
I still do not see any hands raised over in attendees. Lily, do you see anybody?
None in council chamber. Did you want to?
Okay, great. All right, Mr. Hensley or Mr. George, anything else to add?
No,
So
I have nothing there.
I have one question. You know, if, once we do this, we're obviously going to notify the other cities and know they've got to notify the school districts. Do we need to communicate anything to our businesses so that they're aware of our stance on this, so that they can act accordingly? I mean, they have to make their own decision, obviously, and it's up to them to what to do. But if they know what we're doing, it gives them more information on how to move forward.
Good question.
I can work with Barbara Voss about that issue, and obviously they have their own employees, they have their own potential issues with the Park County Department of Health. So I think we can certainly, there are some legal issues in there they have to be concerned about, like we do. But I think, and I don't know, Barbara's still on there. I think we did something like that in the past, but maybe it's better if she addresses that. But I didn't have any other comments in response to the mayor's question a minute ago.
Actually, if I can just add one other thing now, following up on Councilmember Perstick's comments about reaching out to the businesses, do you want us to prepare a press release to send out to the media by any chance on this?
I think that's good to think about as a council and vote on. It looks like Beverly Hills did that exact thing, right? I'm guessing
Yes,
they
they
did
did.
because,
You did.
yeah.
And maybe part of the press release is our letter to the board.
Okay. We can certainly prepare that.
Okay, is anyone opposed to that idea? Doesn't look like it. Okay. All right.
Sorry, I just got one more thing. And this is for anybody that I know people are gonna maybe watch this again and re-quote it and what have you, even if people are listening. Well, one of the things is that even though we're saying what we're saying today, the businesses have to deal with certain things. So their business licenses are potentially at stake, because even though we may not be enforcing it locally, they never know when a health department supervisor is going to come over there and do a gotcha on them. Okay, so I ask that if this thing does go through, I can virtually guarantee that not any of these businesses want to do this, that we do have to respect the fact that their livelihoods are at stake, and to be conscious of that when you walk in. That'd be my only additive to that.
Yeah, and some businesses are going to choose to require masks just like they are now. Many food service companies are still doing that I've seen in different parts of the country in LA. Mrs. Voss, did you want to weigh in?
Oh, just backing up a couple, I 100% agree with Councilmember Giroux that and throughout this pandemic, there have been people come in and just do spot checks, inspectors on businesses, and they're fined and they're cited, just like any other business in LA County would be. So that's a really good point. But as far as outreach to the business community, we have, of course, our database of businesses. We can share a media release. We could do a Gov delivery, email push out to every contact that we have, social media. So there's a lot of ways to get the word out.
Well, to Councilmember Giroux's point, thinking about this a little further, and maybe this is what he was getting at, is in that press release or in any communication to the business community, are we planning on stipulating that, of course, we're not in a position to insulate anyone from compliance or risk of compliance or anything of that matter, that they still should use their own judgment in terms of following county orders or something to that end? So
Right.
if the city's not, we don't want to be perceived as directing people to disobey. We're just saying, essentially, we don't agree and we are not dedicating resources to enforce that policy.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think we'll just rely on Barbara's skill to craft
Yeah. More
some good messaging. Okay.
Understood.
Anything further?
Nope.
Okay. Good seeing everybody. We're adjourned. Have a good
All right,
night.
thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.